on the Team Crushing It. Woohoo!
Welcome to the Team Crushing It podcast. I'm so glad that you are here. Hey, this is your space, your place right here where we're going to teach you about how it is that we crush those obstacles that are in front of those goals, how it is that we crush those timelines, and how it is that we crush life. I'm so glad that you are here. Remember, share this video, or if you're getting it out as a podcast, whatever it is, this is a space where we figure out how to crush those things. I'm super excited today because today is part of a mega episode that we're going to have. We're going to do two episodes, and we're going to talk with a guy who is amazing. He is a terrific author. He is a speaker. He's a TV show host in the Dallas, Texas area. And he's also a rainmaker and mastermind maker where he puts people together and works how to do it. So I love to learn. I've got my notes out. This is the reason why I have my computer out today, as I'm going to be taking some notes. We are here with the phenomenal Patrick Dewar. Pat, how you doing, man?
I'm good. Now I'm probably blushing because that was quite the introduction, but thank you for letting me be on your show again.
Oh man, it's amazing. And we've done some business and some work together. And today I want to take you through the paces of what we're doing with experts from across America, talking about how it is that we dream, believe, work, achieve, and repeat. You know, that's the success recipe. That's the book that you and I both were in, and that we were able to produce. And so I'm just really excited to be able to hear what you're going to have to say about that and allow you to really coach me on those things. And so I'm looking forward to it.
Well, thanks. I'm looking forward to it as well, Ojinga.
Yeah. So I mean, tell me, what are some of the things that you are into right now? What are the things that you're working with at this moment and putting together? So get the people kind of introduced here to some of the stuff it is that you're doing.
Well, I'm still doing the TV show. I started that about 2008 and loving that. I do that for my clients as well as the members of my mastermind group. And then I also am continuing to promote the books and the speaking that I've done and grow some marketing tools for each of my clients. So it's a lot of fun.
And you still have the villa next to Oprah in Hawaii too, correct? That's what I'm saying. I mean, that's what I'm talking about. I mean, tell me about that. Tell me about how O's doing. How you guys?
What are we talking about? Dream? Yeah.
We'll get it.
It's part of the dream.
That's it. We'll get into it with you and your neighbors in Hawaii and everything you got going on later on in this session. But we're going to take a quick break here. But I really want for people to know this is going to be an amazing episode, and we'll be back with more of the Team Crushing It podcast.
It's a jungle out there in the business world. It's hard to stand out from all the other businesses that are doing things that are similar. But one thing we know, people buy from experts. It's time to show your expertise in your business by creating a book or a course that really shows your methodology and how it is you do things. Hit the link and let's create that today.
And welcome back to the Team Crushing It podcast. I am your host, Ojinga Carr. I'm a certified high performance coach. I was so excited about the start of this episode. I need to tell you what my name was, because the thing is that we got just an amazing guy here with us. And he really is like one of my mentors when I'm thinking about mindset and strength-based leadership and all those different things with that, because it's so important. Me having an HR background, I know how important it is to have structure in your organizations, in your life, but this guy is just great. And so we're here with Pat Dewar, and we're talking about here the success recipe. So a little background. We released a book right before the pandemic called The Success Recipe. We're at 20 authors together in a book talking about how it is that we create success. You know that the recipe came from me, from my own stories and my own issues and my own things of being able to come back from illness and doing so. And so the success recipe is dream, believe, work, achieve, repeat. And so, Pat, what I want to talk to you here about is about dreams. Tell me about some of the dreams it is that you've had as far as, because this is how we set the stage in order to be able to really be able to figure out how we get those things done. So tell me about that. Tell me about, like, dreams as it relates with business, as far as how do we focus? How do we get clear on those things?
I think that all of us have the same process that when we finally have a desire, and I remember when I was 40 years old, I took a little assessment test, strength test, that said that teaching was my internal motivational gift. And my first thought was, no, it didn't. It couldn't be. I'm not smart enough to teach. I mean, goodness gracious. And then I had to go, well, wait a minute, where's that coming from? And so I encourage you to check your limiting beliefs. Because I had a limiting belief that had been planted much younger in my life. When I was 18, first thing they said when I went to college was, do you realize that 99% of all of the rest of the freshmen enrolled are placed above you? I'm like, well, thanks for calling me an idiot. And so there's that, but I determined that I would prove them wrong. But my point is this, there was that seed. And so I had to go, well, what do you do with limiting beliefs? You confront them with the adult truth, not the one that was planted. And so the adult truth is what? Well, the adult truth is that after I got out of college, especially while I was in, and then after, I learned how to read fast, remember more. And then I went, well, maybe I'm not so stupid. And that is that catapult into creating the dream of what? Becoming a speaker. And within, I will tell you that the process of beginning to step and trust that if that strength is in you, then offer it. And then beginning to move in that area is like jumping in the river with the current. And you're not fighting all of the forces that you used to. And now all of a sudden you're with the flow. And that I think is part of the biggest part of when we dream, is that we confront our limiting beliefs, take an action step, and move into the area where we can flow with what the dream desires of you, and then begin to open yourself up for those opportunities.
So when you dream and open yourself up for those opportunities, like, what does that feel like when you're starting that process? What does that feel like?
Terrifying.
Terrifying, huh?
I mean, right? I mean, the first time we step out and we're like, gee, I know this is in me. I want to move forward. And I remember the first thing that I offered my speaking at, it was actually a little, it was like a adult Bible study or something. And I said, I think I could help. And they were like, well, how about Sunday? And I'm thinking like someday in the future. And because normal churchianity,
But it was Sunday.
It was like 2 days from. But what was amazing is that within a few months, that group had grown from 10 to 100. I began to be invited to speak around the area, and then ultimately I began to run a 3-day event on how to process pain rather than run from it, and I did it 13 times a year for the next 10 years, which opened me up to the next opportunity, and it's part of that work.
And so we'll get back to that. We're going to go to a quick break, but we'll come back and talk about more of that here on the Team Crushing It podcast.
It's a jungle out there in the business world. It's hard to stand out from all the other businesses that are doing things that are similar. But one thing we know, people buy from experts. It's time to show your expertise in your business by creating a book or a course that really shows your methodology and how it is you do things. Hit the link and let's create that today.
And welcome back to the Team Crushing It podcast. Hey, I hope you're taking notes. I hope that you are taking notes with what you're doing. If you're listening in your car, hopefully you're not taking notes. But if you're watching our videos, and remember, share the video. This is about figuring out how is it that we do better and get more for ourselves. And so this is really, really, really important. So we have the legendary, the man, the myth, the legend, Pat Dewar, who is here with us right now teaching us on this. So we're talking about the success recipe, right? And so when we're talking about the success recipe, we just talked about how it is that you dream. You talked about about that, how the dream of you speaking even was born, even in a time where people had told you couldn't do it, and then you started to be able to get that dream that happens. So how is it that we develop more belief as it goes to that?
Well, you remember we said that it was kind of scary stepping out, but what's amazing is the more you step out, the more comfortable and belief in yourself that you can do it. Because when you're operating in that strength zone, when you're moving in that area that you're really kind of called to be in, it builds up that belief. So every time, every step you take builds belief. And that's something that I encourage all of us to realize, is that you really don't be afraid of failure, because we fail forward. You know, what's the old saying? Anything worth doing is worth doing wrong enough times until you can do it right. And so it's the more you do it, the better you get, the more belief you have.
So you're a real believer in kind of gaining even more belief by being able to do it and being able to practice it more and continuing on and being able to do so. So how do you encourage someone who, when they get started and they do it wrong and they struggle with it, they just want to quit?
I'd encourage you to realize it's all practice. I mean, like, life is one practice session after another. When I first started speaking, every time I spoke, the first few times I remember my wife loves to remind me of the -20 sign that I had spoken for a bit longer than I should have in one of these weekends. And so, you know, okay, get better. But it's all practice. The next time you learn from what you've tried and do better. And it keeps getting better and better. I mean, until you get kind of in the groove of what's doing. First time I spoke, first time I did a radio show, first time I did a TV show. It's all the same. It's all practice.
Yeah, so I mean, it's really that rings true with me, because from my athletic background, you know, it was always practicing. You know, they would say practice makes perfect, but our coaches say perfect practice makes perfect. So we're consistently trying to be able to figure out how to get it done. And you're right that when you feel that, when you start to have more belief, you start to feel it by doing. So belief by doing is a real thing. It really is. Is there another time in your life that you felt that belief by doing?
I think every time. I mean, when I first started speaking, I left corporate America to do what I found I love to do. I love to change lives. I love to inspire and to get people to transform in their life, because I'd seen so much of that in my life. And I was doing that 3-day event 13 times a year. And so I left corporate America, that was all volunteer work, and to be a national speaker, and ended up working with this guy named Zig Ziglar. I know I want to sarcastically kind of go, he's kind of a relatively unknown sales guy.
Right.
But you know, it was neat to be able to build my ability to where I sent a video over to Zig Ziglar's office, and they sent me back an email the next day with a contract in it. Would you present Zig's work? And I was like, you know, Zig Ziglar in my bio, then we're going to hurt each other.
Right.
And the point is that opportunities open up, and that even motivates it more, so that you want to take the action, you want to do the work that you have to do.
I want you to really remember that. Do the work it is that you have to do, and then you're prepared for those opportunities. We've talked about the fact that opportunity, that luck is just when opportunity meets preparation. So being prepared is awesome. I can't wait for us to get back more into this conversation. We'll be back with more of the Team Crushing It podcast.
It's a jungle out there in the business world. It's hard to stand out from all the other businesses that are doing things that are similar. But one thing we know, people buy from experts. It's time to show your expertise in your business by creating a book or a course that really shows your methodology and how it is you do things. Hit the link and let's create that today.
And welcome back to the Team Crushing It podcast. Hey, I hope you're sharing this. I hope that you are getting these great thoughts and nuggets that are coming from this, because the legend Pat Dewar is here talking about how we actually succeed. Look, this doesn't matter what type of business or in your life or what it is we're talking about here. It really is just some truisms and some commonalities that we can use to go through any type of business that do so. This thread runs through everything. It's one of the reasons why I love getting a chance to interview terrific experts in this path. So we talked about how we dream. So you talk about being focused on a dream and how we can get more belief by doing so. Something you mentioned about Zig earlier, the great Zig Ziglar, is do the work. The work is next. So when we're thinking about the work, how do we put this work together? How do we structure it together as far as with the work? How do we make sure that we're, as me using the football analogy with Vince Lombardi, that we're matriculating the ball down the field, that we're moving it and being able to do it? How do we make sure we're doing that?
Well, what's funny is that sometimes people don't know what work to do. And a lot of times that's okay. When I started my speaking business, I had a friend of mine ask me a really wonderful question. He goes, Pat, have you written down your magic 100? And I went, what? What's that? And he said, it's 100 ways that you can start and build your speaking business. And he goes, but there's a challenge to it. And the challenge is the number that you stop at from 0 to 1 to 100, the number you stop at is the percent of your commitment. And anything less than 100% guarantees failure.
Wow. Let me pause you on that. So that magic 100. So that means anything you're doing in your life, just think about it right now, what it is that you're doing. If you can't think of 100 different ways in order to be able to advance that or do that, then you haven't thought. Most people, when they think about an issue or whatever, they say, I've tried everything. I've tried everything. Next time someone says, I've tried everything, just ask them to name off all the things they've tried. Most people can't get past 3. They really can't, but they've tried everything. So that's big. So continue with that. That's something that's really huge.
Well, what's funny is that I was determined, and I said, I'll talk to you tomorrow. And he's like, okay. And I did call him the next day. I said, I'm on number 76, and I'll call you tomorrow when I finish 100. I will get to 100. And so sure enough, the next day. Now, what was nice is that I didn't have to come up with all the ideas myself. They didn't be original thought. They just, what can you do? And I came up with 100, and then I started checking them off. So I had traction. What's amazing is you get about 30 things into it, and you're like out of time. You got so much going on. You get business coming your way, and that's the thing that a lot of people miss, is that they never really think about what are all the things that could be done, and are they taking action on those, or are they into analysis by paralysis, or paralysis by analysis, I guess is the right way to say that.
Yeah, I mean, that's because that's what happens, is that we think about all these things and it feels like it's overload and overwhelm, and we aren't able to work. So what's something that you do well, that's in your wheelhouse that you know that you do well?
I speak and present well. I facilitate groups well. That's why I love to do mastermind groups. I love to do TV shows and things of that nature, where my guest is essentially the star, and it's all about them. And you've been on my show a number of times, and it's always fun because it isn't about me being the brightest guy on the block, because quite honestly, that's irrelevant. It's how do I make you be and seem and feel like you were the star.
That's amazing. And so that makes sense when we're thinking about that as far as the do. And when we come back, I want to talk about a little bit more about that, and then also like what achievement looks like for you. Like, what does that look like? What kind of, I think I'm always fascinated by what it is, the carrots that people hang if you will, in order to be able to get to that next level, the different things that are there. And so we'll be back with more of that here on the Team Crushing It podcast.
It's a jungle out there in the business world. It's hard to stand out from all the other businesses that are doing things that are similar. But one thing we know, people buy from experts. It's time to show your expertise in your business by creating a book or a course that really shows your methodology and how it is you do things. Hit the link and let's create that today.
Welcome back to the Team Crushing It podcast. Tons of, go back and rewind this, go back and listen to this, because there's been tons of really great, valuable nuggets that the legend Pat Dewar has been dropping here with me. I just love being able to be next to legendary people. Well, we're doing this live and in person too. This is really great. One of the first things I've done with other people since the pandemic, and so I'm super excited about that. So I want to finish up on something when we're talking about how it is that we do the work. So you know how the things are in your wheelhouse. How do you decide, or what do you work with as far as things on delegating, the things that you need to delegate?
Delegation is one of those things that it all depends on how much money you have. If you're just starting out, pretty much you're kind of doing it. And if you've been doing your business for a while, then you need to look at how much money do you want to make, and are you doing something that's valuable enough to validate that charge of your time clock. Because we've all run the numbers. If it's 100,000 you want, if every hour that you're working, you're not doing $50 an hour work, then you're probably wasting your resource, the one most valuable resource you have, which is your time. Mm-hmm. If you can hire somebody, if you can use one of the resources out there, Virtual Universe is huge, with everything from, Upworks or Fiverr or any of those type of things, which takes a little bit of practice, but it's like, use technology, use the outsourcing wherever you can, find tools. I work with a team of people that help with things like helping me market my clients. That sort of thing is something that is far more valuable to be a part of, Snap-on, where I do my own thing, but there's this resource behind me. So that's one of the things that delegate. Don't be afraid to do that. And they're not always going to do it right. They're going to screw up on occasion, and you're just going to have to kind of go, okay, is this a dishonesty thing or just dysfunction? Yeah. And if it's something that can be educated out of, great. And if not, then there are lots of other options for that too.
Absolutely. So when you think about achieving your actual goal, what I always like to ask this question: what is like a celebration that you have planned for yourself when you achieve a certain goal? So you've got a goal that's in your mind. What's the celebration? It could be current or past. Anything that you've done as far as that?
It's funny, but I wanted to be a national speaker, and I spent 6 years doing 200 workshops a year around the country in all 50 states. And I got to go to Hawaii.
That's where you picked up the villa at.
That's
I understand.
Right.
I understand.
Actually, I got paid to go to Hawaii 3 times. and each time was a celebration. Mm-hmm. We stayed 5 days. The second time we stayed again. And the third time was, my wife wasn't able to go because she's a teacher. And so I took my 29-year-old son, and that was such a major blessing and reward, because we had been separated since he was 6. He lives up in St. Louis. I live down here in Dallas-Fort Worth. And so for us to go to Hawaii and spend 5 days in Hawaii and travel, and those are massive rewards. When COVID hit, everything shifted. And so now, I look at what's the next great thing, until we begin to release some of well, I can tell you what the next big thing is. I want to go to Ireland and Australia, and actually I I'd love to go get paid to go, but there's also the opportunity of being, affluent enough to be able to go to speak in Ireland and Australia, just because those are beautiful areas. My family's from there and other stuff.
Wow. Well, I mean, I can see that definitely for you, being able to do that. And I want you to think for yourself, those of you who are listening, I want you to think about what is that thing that you're going to do when you achieve it. And so it could be, if your dream might just be that you want to lose 20 pounds. So is it the outfit that you want to wear when you're going to achieve that? Whatever it is, we just have to be able to know. And we'll talk more about that in the Team Crushing It podcast coming back next.
It's a jungle out there in the business world. It's hard to stand out from all the other businesses that are doing things that are similar. But one thing we know, people buy from experts. It's time to show your expertise in your business by creating a book or a course that really shows your methodology and how it is you do things. Hit the link and let's create that today.
And welcome back to the Team Crushing It podcast. It's me, Ojinga Carr, certified high performance coach, with my fabulous guest, the legendary Pat Dewar. We are talking about all of these different ways in order to be able to achieve success. I hope that you have really found some real value from this. If you found some value, thumbs up this, send it over to someone else. Make sure that you're passing along some people to tune into this podcast, because we have a lot of value that we're dropping with it, and I'm super excited about what it is that we're doing. So Pat, we talked about the success recipe all the way through. Now let's talk about how it is that we repeat, because what happens many times is that people will be successful once, but have no idea how they succeeded, have no idea what happened, and have no idea how to be able to repeat it. And so that's a very fearful place, because now you've tasted success and you actually want to continue with it. So it makes it really difficult. So tell me about that, as far as like systems that you put in place, or systems that you help people put in place as far as with repeating.
That's such a great thing, especially now, because I'm really curious. And if this is you, then I'd like you to put some comment below about how has your business pivoted in this whole Corona thing, that, no matter when you see this, it could be 2030. And chances are, if you were in business, it affected you. Because I went from face-to-face training to digital face-to-face. Everything shifted. And one of the things that you do is learn a whole different set of systems. I used to have a system. I got on a plane. I flew to another town, got in my rental car, blah, blah, blah. You knew where you were going to go. You had everything mapped out. Where's next? Great. Thank goodness for Google. It knows all, systems. But when I had to go digital, I had to set up a weekly webinar, roundtable workshop that I promote, and I've got systems in place. For Monday, I know I'm going to set the event up, send out the invites, go through, make sure all of them are registered, make sure that everything is set up, and then literally use some sort of pool, like whether it's whatever you use. I've been introduced and been working with Salesforce, but there's lots of them out there. And the point is that document what you do, copy and paste if you have to, or save your emails in a way so that you can look at a client and see what was the last thing that was talked about, and you can have it like that, and then you can add files to there, and some sort of bucket. And that's been one of the best tools for me, is to see a new way of documenting everything. When I'm out speaking, it's you had a system where at the end of the night you were filling out paperwork, whatever, filing stuff, but when you're not, and right now a lot of us, we have to go into a digital environment. What systems? What are you going to use? What are you using? I'd like to know. Put it down below. What do you use to kind of aggregate your activities so that you can track it better? I've known people use like Excel spreadsheets and stuff, and I'm like, well, that's one way to do it. They've got some upgrades now.
It really is. And so that's important, to have the systems in place because it's all about repeatable actions.
Yeah, every week I do the same thing. And that's the other thing with any kind of promotion, as you know, is that you've got to do it and keep doing it. Keep doing it. Just rinse and repeat. I think that's one of your things anyways.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it is. It's about being able, how do you repeat it? Because otherwise, you're just doing stuff and you're just kind of throwing things against the wall and you're not really knowing what was successful and what was not. I know one thing that when I was in the contract training world, it was about making sure that you shift one thing at a time so you could see whatever it was that made the difference with that. With systems, it's still the same thing of, okay, we need to know what the systems, what they are and how they are and what they do. And so, I mean, it's been amazing having you here in this spotlight here with the Team Crushing It podcast. You're a big part of our Team Crushing It community. People love when you're at the live events and with that as well too. And we just love being a part of you. And I'm glad that we've been able to do business together, but I'm also glad to call you a friend. And so I'm really appreciative of what it is that we've been able to work and been able to create. You are an amazing author and speaker and TV show host and mastermind maker and rainmaker and everything else. You know, I mean, you can make rain out of a sunny day. All of a sudden, it's raining money, and that's just what happens with Pat Dewar. He's the guy with that does that with that definitely. You guys, this has been a great episode. I hope that you will earmark it and come back to it and take a look at it. And we'll be back with more of the Team Crushing It podcast.